Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're gonna do something a little different and we're gonna talk about books that I have absolutely no interest in. So I'm gonna be doing the anti-TBR tag. To be honest, I never really thought I would do this tag. I've seen it going around a lot lately and I love watching them, but I just didn't really think that I had any answers to the questions because in general, when I'm not interested in something, it just ceases to exist to me. It just like doesn't pop into my mind at all. If anyone talks about it, I don't register it. It's just non-existent to me. But since I'm in the middle of my move right now and I don't know how much reading or filming I'm gonna be able to do, I thought if there's ever a time that I'm gonna do this video, it's now. This tag was created by Nicole from Nicole and Her Books, who I love, and hopefully we can make it out of this video without anybody getting really mad at me. Although I foresee that as a possibility. Time will tell. The dislike ratio on this video will tell you if I have made some enemies, but I hope not. But first, this video is being sponsored by Book of the Month. Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and help readers discover books they love. Their team vets hundreds of books each month and gives readers their choice from a curated selection of new and early release titles so you can spend more time reading and less time researching. Book of the Month is risk-free and you can skip any month, anytime, and you will not be charged. Plus, they have the best price for new release hardcover fiction. And here are the books for April. People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. For fans of When Harry Met Sally, a story of two fools in love who might be the only ones who don't know it yet. Libertine by Caitlin Greenidge. Tired of everyone telling you how to live your life? Libertine's fight to shape her future in 1800s New York City is for you. The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. Better than bourbon and biscuits, this sizzling story stars Southern belles on the hunt in more ways than one. What Comes After by Joanne Tompkins. This moving novel of a town struggling after the death of two boys offers hope and wisdom. Arsenic and Adobo by Mina P. Manansala. That awkward moment when your ex-boyfriend gets poisoned in your restaurant and everyone thinks you did it. I was so excited to see that People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry was one of their choices for this month because I have been so excited for this book. I believe it is a friends to lovers romance. I'm so excited for this. So if you use the link in the description and the code SPRINGFUN, you can get your first book for $9.99. And thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. The first question is a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. This one I really had to think on because, like, I could say all of them. In general, the more popular a book is, the less interested in it I am. And that's not to be like, oh, like, I'm so cool, I don't like what's popular. I get intimidated by hype and I would rather read books that nobody's read and nobody's talking about and I can go into them without any influence than ones that are super hyped and I feel like a lot of people have talked about. I could say the whole Mortal Instruments extended universe. Can't say I've ever been interested in any of that. Anything by Sarah J. Maas is a nope. But there are specific books that I think people recommend to me and it's never gonna happen. So the first one is Serpent and Dove. I don't even know the author's name, but I get recommended this book a lot because it's a fantasy with I think a heavy romance in it and maybe it's enemies to lovers. I don't know what it is about this book. I've just never had any interest in it and I can't even tell you why necessarily because it sounds like something I would like. Another one I would not touch with a 10-foot pole is A Little Life. This is a book that basically everyone describes it as being torture and it being like the saddest book ever. People just always talk about how sad it is and how like it destroys them. If you look up like reading vlogs or reviews for this book, everyone is like crying in the thumbnails. I actually was curious what the book is about. I read like a whole in-depth synopsis I think on Wikipedia and wow, it just sounds horrible. I just in general, I don't really like to read books that are going to torture me. I don't really like that. I tend not to ever really read overtly emotional books. Books that deal with heavy topics, that's fine, but for the book to be like overall just like brutal and emotional or torture porn, that's just not my thing. I read for entertainment and like to be happy and excited. You know, like I have enough emotional turmoil in my real life. I'm not trying to have that in a book. I'm trying to escape that. So you could not pay me to read this book. Question 2 is a classic book you don't have an interest in reading. My like instinctual answer was to say all of them because I'm not really a big classics person, but that's not true because there are some classics that I like and some classics that I still would want to read. The one that I think I would have to say that I literally have no interest in reading is The Catcher in the Rye. I have avoided reading this book for over a decade. When I was in middle school and high school, I moved schools a lot. And so between like all my different schools that I went to, I was assigned to read this book in like 5 different classes and I never did it. I refuse. I just won't do it. You're not gonna make me read it. Question 3 is an author whose books you have no interest in reading. So for this one, I picked Beth O'Leary, I think is her name. She wrote The Flat Share and she had another book, I think it was called The Switch. And they're pretty popular romance books. I think they were nominated for like the Goodreads Awards. I see them all the time. I hear people talking about her all the time. Her books just sound so boring to me. Between the two, I think I would be more likely to read The Flat Share, although I still would never read it. Like if you forced me to read one of her books, that would be the one that I would pick because The Switch sounds horrible. This is just my super minimal knowledge of it, which is like absolutely nothing because I heard about it once and was like, nope, delete from my brain. But from what I know about this book, it's about a woman and her grandmother and they Freaky Friday swap bodies. But then there's romances. So I'm like, how does that work? Because is grandma having a romance with like a young man in her granddaughter's body? Or is granddaughter having a romance with like some old grandpa in her grandma's body? Like I don't know. I don't know how that works. I also don't like Freaky Friday plots at all. Even though I love the movie Freaky Friday, I don't like it because it creeps me out. Just the idea of someone being in someone else's body. I don't want to, like, there's a lot of things going on in that situation that I don't want to think about. Especially when you throw in a grandma into the mix. All love to grandmas. But that's not something I really want to read about. And then there was a part 2 to that question, which is a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. I think that this one was the hardest for me to think of somebody because, again, like when I find out an author is problematic, I literally erase them from my mind and I forget that they exist. So I was trying to think of somebody who I recently wrote off because of their problematic behavior, and the only person that I could think of was LJ Shen. She was an author that I kind of liked. I loved Vicious by her, but then I hated The Kiss Thief. And I think those are the only 2 books I've read by her, but I ended up getting rid of all of her books that I owned and taking the rest off of my TBR because of everything that came out about her recently. I'm just not here for authors who are bullies. I don't know. I don't know what I'm allowed to say about this because some of it's not public, but it's one thing to build your career writing bully romances. It's another thing to actually be a bully, and I'm not here for that. So I will not be reading any more of her books. Question 4 is an author you've read a couple books from and decided their books are not for you. For this one, I chose Jasmine Guillory, who wrote The Wedding Date and a bunch of other books. I read The Wedding Date like a long time ago and I liked it. I think I liked it more at the time, but then it was super forgettable. Like I can't tell you anything that book was about or anything that happened. And then I read The Proposal, which was her follow-up to that book, and I did not like it. And I don't really like her vibe. Her books were just kind of bland. So yeah, I'm not picking up any more of her books. Question 5 is a genre you have no interest in or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. I think that a genre that I have no interest in anymore is YA contemporary. I just feel like I have a really hard time reading YA contemporaries about teenagers in high school. I can't really I don't know, as an adult now, I can't really separate what I know as an adult versus like reading books about people in high school. It's just not really enjoyable for me. I also kind of think I'm done with new adult romance or like college-based romance, kind of for the same reason I don't want to read YA contemporary anymore. I sort of view high school and college almost to be the same now. They tend to be very cringy to me. So yeah, I think I can't even remember the last new adult romance that I read. Here's the thing, I think I'm fine reading about college age characters, but when it takes place in a college setting and like it's all about college and they're like going to school or they're going to games or they're going to frat parties, like that, I don't find it interesting. Because I think I still read a lot of romances about like characters in their early 20s, which is college aged, but it's just like the college environment, I think, that I'm not really into. Okay, question 6 is a book you bought but you will never read. I don't know that I have an answer for this. In general, I don't really buy books that I have no intention of reading. I literally just unhauled like 300 books, so I would have had an answer to this. But I unhaul books a lot, and so anything that I'm no longer interested in, I get rid of. I don't buy books that I don't have any intent in reading. There's always an intent to read it at some point. Question 7 is a series you have no interest in reading or a series you started and have DNF. Again, I have a lot of answers for this one because I very, very rarely complete book series. I'm not a book series kind of person, but there are a couple series that I know for a fact I'm not gonna finish. I've quit. They're just not for me anymore. The first one is the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. I don't know if the series has like an actual name. I read the first 3 books in this series, and I think there's only 4 books total. So I read everything except the last book. And the first 2 books I really, really liked, but the 3rd book, oh my God, was awful. Like, I hated it so much. I think somewhere like deep in my channel there's a whole rant video about that book because I hated it so much. I was so upset. Another one is the entire Grisha universe by Leigh Vardugo. I read the Shadow and Bone trilogy and I read Six of Crows, but I have no intention of reading Crooked Kingdom or reading King of Scars. And it's not because I didn't like them. I mean, I didn't really like the Shadow and Bone trilogy, but I did really, really like Six of Crows. I think I gave that 5 stars, but I don't know. I just don't have an intention of finishing, especially now that the show is about to come out. I'm just gonna watch that. I don't think I'll ever go back and read the other books. The last one is Girls of Paper and Fire, but this one I am not going to read the rest of the books in this series because I personally think that the first book was a great standalone. Not everything needs to be a series. I really liked how this book ended. It had a conclusion, it wrapped up, it ended nicely, and then it had like an epilogue that opened everything back up. And I'm like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. No, I liked the way that it ended. I've also heard not great things about the sequel, so I'd like to preserve the love that I had for the first book and just not keep going. The last question is a new release you have no interest in reading. This can kind of tie into the question of an author that I've read a couple books from and I'm not gonna read anymore because it's Christina Lauren's new book. I don't even know what it's called. It has something about math in the title, I think, like the equation or the solution, or I've read 5 or 6 books by Christina Lauren. Some of them I absolutely loved, some of them I did not. I think in general, they're just not an author for me anymore. I haven't really liked their past, like their newest releases. I don't really like the way that they're writing anymore. It's super mainstream. It's not like their old stuff. Also, I realized something that but like really bugged me about their books. I started to notice it, that they use this trope a lot and it's super questionable. Basically, in a lot of their romances, the main couple has sex for the first time while blackout drunk. And then they wake up the next day and they don't remember that it happened, or it's like really foggy, or one of them remembers and the other one doesn't remember. And it happened in multiple books where that was the like main couple's first sexual encounter. And I don't know, like the first time that I read it, I was like, oh, that was kind of a weird choice, but okay. And then it kept happening, like it kept popping up in a lot of their books. And I don't know, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Maybe that's just me because I've literally never heard anybody talk about this before in regards to their books, but it kind of made me feel weird. So yeah, I just think their books aren't really for me anymore, which sucks because I do really like their old stuff. So we've made it to the end of this video. I really don't think I said anything too controversial here. Definitely let me know what your answers to these questions are down below in the comments, because I'm so curious about everyone's answers. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!